Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Williams.
Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another Honorable Warrior episode on Bravery Within. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like I said here just a few seconds ago, you guys are amazing. I wish I had a better word for it, but you guys are tuning in, you're letting me know, you're writing in, you're suggesting things, you're even coming up with your own dad jokes that you want me to start talking about on the podcast, and I gotta tell you, that's amazing. You guys are absolutely amazing. You're my extended family, and I'm glad you guys are so receptive of my shows. I mean, it makes me blush, and I know you can't see it because I'm just talking on the air, but if I was in video, you could see how red my face is from embarrassment, because it's like, oh, thank you so much for listening. So I wanted to talk a little bit more today. They're trying to do something a little bit more uplifting here for you gentlemen out there. It took me a little bit to figure this one out, because I have to admit, because even though I'm talking about it, I had to actually think about what I wanted as doing this episode when I was drafting up my notes and everything, trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to go with this episode to try to help you guys out. And it took a little bit to figure out, but I got there. So, episode 6 of The Honorable Warrior is called Knowing What You Want Out of Life. And we've had a couple, really deep episodes so far in this series. So I wanted to dig deep, but not quite as deep. I wanted this one to try to be a little bit more lighthearted is what I'm going for here. So you guys hopefully will enjoy the podcast a little bit more. But I actually had a friend of mine and I were talking here the other day, and he was talking to me about, trying to figure out what he wanted out of life. And when he asked the question and he was talking about it, it really made me think for a minute there. I mean, I'm 49 years old, and you would think by that time you would have it figured out and what you want. And there was part of it that I did know what I want, and I still do, but I'm just not, I don't know if I just don't have the motivation to go back to school to do it. I'm not quite sure why I'm holding up. But more than anything, I wanted to be an elementary school teacher, and I wanted to be a counselor and a psychologist. I mean, I wanted to help people. I wanted to be there for them. I wanted to listen to what was ailing them, what they were going through, and then try to come up with solutions to help them. And I think that's why the podcasts are so wonderful for me, because in a matter of speaking, I'm kind of sort of helping. I'm listening to what you guys are saying, and then I'm turning them into episodes. Now that you guys are talking a little bit more, it makes it a little bit easier to try to focus and figure out what content you guys want to listen to. And that's where I'm trying to, I know where I want to go with the podcast, but it always helps hearing from you guys, because you guys are the ones listening to it. So if there's something that I could do, we'll head that way. But he got me wondering, what did I want out of life? And I'll be honest, to this point, I've had, a failed marriage, a failed business. I lost everything due to COVID. There's been so much loss in my life. I mean, both my parents are now laid to rest. I mean, there's so many of my relatives that have been laid to rest. And it really makes you wonder, because it's kind of like, okay, where are we going with this? And it made me sit back and think for just a moment. And I had to go back to some of the teachings that my mom taught me as I was being raised and growing up at home. Mom believed that I needed to be self-reliant on myself and myself alone. Mainly because, I think it was her way of basically empowering women, which is fantastic. It's great. Absolutely. I mean, the days of them, just being stuck at home and in the kitchen and that old thing, is gone. And she wanted to make sure that I could take care of myself. She wanted to make sure that I could cook, I could clean, I could sew, I could fix my own clothes and stuff, do laundry, iron, all of that stuff, basically anything inside the house. She wanted to make sure that I could do it, so I would just rely on myself. And I'm sure she didn't mean for me to be single for so long. And in fact, before she passed on, I had been divorced for several years, and she kind of always wondered, was I going to get back with anybody, or did I, and it's like, well, I hadn't really thought about it. You get to a point where you're so single for so long that it's hard to be with somebody again. And that's probably not the right way of looking at it, but that's just kind of the way I am. And being a man, we do all the man stuff, the mowing and the fixing the vehicles and fixing stuff around the house and all the man chores, however you want to put it, for a lack of better words. I know how to do all that stuff, and I've done all of that stuff. But she wanted to make sure that I also could do the cooking, the cleaning, the sewing, dusting, vacuuming, all of that stuff. She wanted to make sure that anything inside the house that was typically ladies' work, back in the old days is, I could do all of that, because she didn't want me to basically think of the ladies as, that's all they did. The men have their stuff and the women have their stuff. She didn't want me to think that way. And I'm so very grateful that she expanded my mind and forced me to wake up and look at things differently. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to, when I was, after the divorce and everything else, and even through the marriage and stuff, a lot of that stuff fell on my shoulders, and I was fine with that. I mean, that's just what I knew. I was taking care of my family, taking care of my ex-wife. I just thought it was just a normal thing, so that's what I did. So I was very self-reliant on myself, and I was okay with that, and I'm still okay with that, because after the divorce, and I could slide into just taking care of things at home, and I didn't have to worry about was I going to be able to do it. And there is a reason why I'm saying all this, because you're probably thinking, that really doesn't fit in with the title, Knowing What You Want Out of Life. Aha! It took me a little bit, but there actually is, so hang in there. But after 49 years on this planet, I couldn't agree more with her outlook. I have to. And it was really, really nice. She expanded my mind past the man things. And honestly, it was those teachings that helped me get through my life and get through my marriage. And while doing all of that, I taught my son to do all those things as well, because I believe that, yes, you need to be able to do all these things as well. And I've always gone by that adage, do as I say, not as I do. So if I'm going to say something, I'm going to get in there and do it as well. I mean, my management style has always said that. I mean, I wouldn't ask anybody to do something I personally wouldn't do. So I thought it was just fair to you run the home life the same way. It's like, okay, well, if I expect somebody else to be able to cook, well, then I sure as heck better be able to cook. Or I sure better be able to do the laundry or vacuum or go get groceries or whatever it is. And I've always lived by that. My management style has said the same way. My son is the same way. He's a very honorable man. I'm proud of him. And that's kind of the way I see life anymore. And I hope it's a little bit more of an optimistic outlook because of all the, we've all been through so much in the past few years. I'm not arguing that point. But when there's been so much hatred towards men that has really sprung up in the past 5-10 years, it really makes me sad that so many people are against the men out there. And it was like, okay, we're kind of, at this point, and I'll be honest, I'm one of them. You're kind of lost. It's kind of, because I was raised to say yes, ma'am, yes, sir, hold the door open for people, get something off the shelf for them. You do whatever as a sign of respect, and a lot of people misinterpret that anymore, and which kind of breaks my heart, because it's like all I'm doing is showing respect, and it kind of gets misconstrued, and it's like I'm not quite sure why it does. And I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they don't understand it either. I mean, the old world ways just don't seem to work anymore. So in a way, my mom was kind of ahead of the time by saying, okay, this is the way I'm going to raise you this way. This is what you need to be able to do. And I'm grateful. And the reason that all of this in the beginning of the podcast, you're probably still trying to figure out, okay, Sean, you normally lead us from point A to point B to point C. Right now you're at point A and you're at point G, trying to come back to D and over to E. Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm not going to lie about this episode. But like I said, it took me a little bit to figure out where I wanted to go with this episode. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because what it did is because I know how to do all that stuff. And after the divorce, I was able to just slide in to that role and continue to take care of things. But what that did is it opened up another door for me that I didn't realize at the time. And what it did is it allowed me to try to figure out what I want out of life. Because if you've got all that stuff figured out and you're not trying to learn it and trying to figure out how to incorporate it into your life, then what you can do is you can focus on what do you want out of life? Where do you want to go with your life? And because I was talking with my friend, and he's a very good friend, about this, and he was trying to figure that out himself. It got me wondering, what do I want out of my life? Now, I know, and I can tell you this right now, that in the beginning, when I was young, from about age 7 on, I knew I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. I wanted to teach second grade. More than anything on earth, I wanted to be a teacher. And I actually spent more than 6 years just being a student teacher, going around, and I would spend afternoons at the elementary school working in the gym, working with, different teachers that were in the school. I was helping kids. You kind of become a tutor, and you would help them with spelling, or you'd help them with math, or when I was in the gym, we helped out with the physical education, and I would help Mrs. Williamson set up things. And she was a remarkable teacher and a remarkable lady. She taught me so much, and we fell out of contact after I went to college and everything else, and I really didn't get to see her anymore, and it broke my heart because she was such an influence on me. And I knew that there was nothing more that I wanted than to be a teacher and be a student counselor. I wanted to be able to help because there's so much that goes on. School is hard enough as is. And after going through it myself, then I thought it kind of helped a little bit in where I could try to help other kids and going down that road. And that was the one thing that I was absolutely annoyed by. I started college to become a teacher. And I didn't realize, that was back in 92, and college wasn't quite as structured as what it is now, and they didn't really give you prep courses or anything like that there. It kind of come down to, I was overwhelmed, and I admit it, and I fell behind right away, and the work I turned in was not that great, so I ended up dropping out. And I never got back to it, and that's a regret that I really I still carry today. I still, it breaks my heart that I wasn't strong enough to follow through and get my diploma and get my degree, so that way I could be a teacher and work with the students. And it breaks my heart to this day that I didn't do it. And that's why I said I don't know if I have the strength to go back to college for 4 years to do it. I sure don't have the finances to do it. So it's kind of like right now just trying to get through life. So after that, and then my son come along, and I raised my son there with the ex-wife, and took care of things. And then after that, once he got all grown up and he graduated from school and stuff, and then I started basically, I had to try to figure out, because by that time, once he graduated high school, I was divorced, and I, like I said in other episodes, I had actually lost myself. I didn't know really who Sean was. I mean, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know where I wanted to go. So that's why when I was talking to my friend last week and he brought up he was trying to figure out what he wanted out of life, it took me back to that moment of I was trying to figure out where I was. Now, granted, I was 35, I think, at the time when I got divorced. You would think by that time you're cruising right along and stuff. You would think that you would have it figured out what you wanted. And after, because I planned on being married my whole life. I never planned on getting a divorce. And then here I am, after 17 years, that was it. And I had to figure out what I wanted and where I wanted to go. So with his question, he was asking himself, but it kicked up an idea in my head of, okay, what did I want out of life? And I had to go back to work and figure it out there. I knew at that point, I thought, okay, well, I wanted to basically reinvent myself. So I did. I went back and, like I said, I re-examined my core beliefs and what made Sean is really what it come down to. And once I figured that out, then I figured out, okay, where do I want to go with my life? And I knew at that point that I wanted my own business. I had tried a couple other ideas at businesses and they just flopped while I was married. So I knew that I wasn't very good at it, apparently. And so I started writing, because I could do that from home and it really didn't cost anything. I mean, ultimately, publishing my own books, writing, and everything else that went behind it, I got, about $12,000 in the hole trying to figure out, okay, I wanted to be an author because I wanted to tell a story. And it helped me get through a lot after my divorce. I was harboring a lot of ill will. There was a lot of darkness. There was a lot going on with me. I'm not going to argue. I hated everyone and everything at that point. So I needed to get that out of me. So I started writing, and I published 4 books. And I was so proud of myself, and I still am for doing it, because to be able to write it, and then I was lucky enough. I had 2 amazing friends that helped me design the book. They help me edit the book. They help me come up with the ideas to make them work better. Because honestly, I had not planned on publishing when I wrote the first book. All I needed to do basically is I just started typing. I sat down, opened up a Word document, and I just started typing because I knew I didn't want to do a journal, because that scared the heck out of me when I went back, and in 5 years before that, right after my divorce, I started writing a journal, and that was so dark, it scared the heck out of me, and I wrote it. I didn't realize how dark I was. So I went back to the book and I decided, okay, I'm just going to write a book. And then I wrote my first book in 17 days. Done. And I had 2 absolutely remarkable friends that helped me edit it. And that first one was a nightmare because I never planned on publishing, but I got told that the book was so good that I needed to publish it. So, it took us forever to edit it because there was all kinds of grammatical errors, there was words problems, stuff didn't flow through, my timetables didn't work because I didn't care when I was writing. I just needed to get that darkness out of me, and what I did is I turned that darkness into my books. And if you read the books, and if you know me personally, you'll realize how much of me is actually in those books. So I ended up, doing the first one, and it took us forever to edit it. I think we went through 3 sessions of editing. And then we published the book, and then we went back, and the people there that I gave the books to, just to say thank you, then we went back and realized, holy cow, we missed all kinds of errors because none of us had been an editor before. We had no idea what we were doing. They were just kind enough to spend so many hours helping me to get this going in the right direction. And it was like, okay, well, then I published the book, and then we realized we found tons of errors, and we had to go back, and I had to republish the book. So we went back and made all the changes and the corrections, and then republished the book, and then that's the one that went out for sale. And then I wrote 2, 3, and 4, and got those published. They were kind enough to help me through all those steps. They're absolutely amazing friends. And then I wrote book 5, and I ran out of money, and I couldn't, and that's the one that I love the most. And then I wrote an independent book, and then I started working on, and I circled back and started writing book 6, and I just haven't got back to it because now I'm doing my podcast, so I kind of put the book on hold. But I knew that I was trying to basically get to a point where I had had so many bad things happen that I didn't really think that anybody was, and I didn't do it for that way, but you kind of sort of do it. You want somebody to be proud of you. And I never ever got that. I never once ever heard that from my dad. So I don't know if he was ever proud of me. I'm guessing not, since he never told me. So you're just looking for some sort of, hope or something anywhere. And I thought by writing the books, if I could become a published author, then maybe my life would be worth something. And that's what I was thinking at the end of my divorce and stuff. And it had been about 5 years after the divorce when I started writing my books, when I sat down, and I didn't know that I could write a book. I hadn't the faintest idea. I just started typing words down. I had no idea. I had nothing planned out. I didn't sit out and structure anything to plan ahead for future books. I kind of had an idea in my head where I wanted to go. But like I said, the first book was just, okay, I'm just writing it down to get some darkness out of me. So that turned into the other books and everything there. And then I just kept moving on. And then I realized, okay, well, I've published my own books. And, I haven't been able to break through and go, big time with anything. I have some people out there that follow me, and they're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful people that have supported me since book 1. They're absolutely fantastic fans. I absolutely adore and love every one of them. And I realized, okay, well, I've tackled this, and I wanted to keep going, but I just didn't have the money, and I still don't have the money to publish the books further because people are asking for the books, and it's like, I can't do it. And another reason I can't do it is because then what I did was, after my parents passed away, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try to do something in my mom's honor. And my mom always worked at a flower shop. She spent 20 years, I think 20 plus years at a flower shop, and she was loved by all. She was very genuine, very wonderful. And she always loved my books and stuff. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to start an art store, because I thought, basically an art gallery is what I started. And I had a bunch of remarkable artists that went in there. And I supported all of our local authors. And we did book signings and everything else, everything that I could do. Because I thought, okay, if I could get in, the next thing I wanted to do was own my own business. I thought, okay, maybe that's the answer that I've been missing. I spent 13 years at a job, a very unappreciative job that ran me in the ground. And I decided, okay, well, I want to try to find something positive to maybe make my life worth something and give it meaning. So then I opened up the business. And of course, 3 months, 4 months, 4 months down the road, COVID hit and the mayor shut the town down. No customers, no nothing. I only had 3 customers in 3 months, and you just can't keep the doors open on a brand new, even an existing business. You can't keep the doors open. So I ended up losing the business. It broke my heart, and it was like everything I worked for, all my savings, all my 401k. I lost my home, lost my truck. My son, I thought, was going to disown me. He's been so wonderful standing beside me the whole time through all of this stuff. He didn't need to, but he did. And so that, knowing that I wanted to have my own business, and then you work 10, 12 years to get it, and then you lose it, it's just like, son of a gun, you just keep getting kicked around. It doesn't matter what you do. So I've had to basically start over for a third time in my life, and that's where I'm at right now. And it made me think when I was talking with my friend last week, what do you want out of life? Now, I went through knowing all of these things, and granted, I'm 49 years old, and remember, I'm on the 22nd month of my weight loss journey. So I know I wanted to be skinnier. So that's one thing that I worked hard for. And I knew I wanted to help people, but I don't have the money to go back to school. And I want to, at this point, if I was going to go back to school for something, I'd want to go back as a psychiatrist. I want to talk to people. I want to help them. But the problem is that's 8 years of schooling. And by that time, I'm going to be decrepit and old, and I'll never do good enough. I'll never make my money back from all the schooling. So I've kind of tabled that a little bit. So that led me into, okay, what other goals, what other desires do I want to get out of my life at this current time? Because as you're going through, you're going to adjust, you're going to change, you're going to figure new things out. You may run across a new friend that gives you a different idea, pushes you in a new direction. You may, a job may push you in a different direction. I mean, a relative. I mean, there's so many different things. Our lives are so fluid. They're always changing. So your goals and everything kind of have to go with it a little bit. But some of the things, like the goals and desires that I have set for my life, that have stayed pretty firm all the way, even through all of these ups and downs. They've pretty much stayed this way. And the first one is take care and provide for my family and friends. I want to make sure that I'm always taking care of them. I'm always there for them. I'm always listening. If I can help financially, I do. If I can help physically, I do. Whatever it is, but I just know that I want to take care and provide for my family and friends. And that's kind of where my podcasts come in, because you're all my extended family. And I thought, okay, this is a good way of being able to help people. I may not be doing a lot. I'll be honest, I'm still not 100% certain that I'm doing a whole lot of good here. But I just try to, this is all I got to basically put a little light out in the world. Maybe a little candle in the window saying, hey, somebody's behind you. Somebody's here for you. Somebody believes in you. And that's what I want to be. And this is about the only way that I can do it, because I'm not smart. I don't have a piece of paper hanging on the wall. I didn't go to school, like I said. And this is kind of my way of helping. But to take care and provide for my family is something that I've set for, what I want out of life. The next thing is someone special to share my life with. And that's the hard part, is because I've been single now for, 14 years, over 14 years. I'm coming up on 15. And I've never been able to find that someone special to share my life with. But that's one of my goals, is to do it. And I know that's what I want out of life, because I know there's more time behind me now than there is in front of me. I'm running out of time. Father Time is not my friend anymore. I mean, back when you're 20, it doesn't seem like it's quite so bad. But when you get older, like me, time starts to fight against you a little bit. But I'm still trying to find that someone special to share my life with, somebody that wants to take time. Another thing that I know what I want out of my life is I want to be there for my son and help him in any way I can. He's always the number one priority in my life. It's just kind of like Willow, we're playing tug of war right now as I'm recording, and I want to be there for him. And I've always done my very best to be there for my son. I've tried to never let him down, even though I know I have, but he takes it with stride, and we keep right on it going. I mean, I'm human. I make mistakes. I don't know everything. And one thing that he brought up too that really stuck with me a couple weeks ago is we were talking about episodes. We were talking about the podcast and see what we wanted to do. And he made a comment that has really stuck with me. And I don't think he meant it that way. And it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a bad comment, but it stuck with me. And he says, you're basically imparting old school ways and knowledge on the young generation and all this new way of doing things. And he said it a little bit differently. I'm kind of paraphrasing it right now because he's much wiser than I am. But I thought, that is a different way of looking at it. I had never thought of it that way. And I'm not saying that I know everything. I don't in any way, shape, or form. So it's kind of like, okay, well, that's a different way of looking at it. But it just reminded me that I'm there for my son and help him any way I can, and he reciprocates. He's been there every step of the way. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better friend in my life than him. I mean, he's been phenomenal. Another knowing what I want is to be completely independent and not needing anyone to help me. That comes along with my Taurus side. I'm very stubborn. and yes, it's on record, so now my family can use that against me. I think I've said it several times anyway, and I've heard all about it. But I like being independent and doing my own things. But it doesn't mean that I don't want somebody to share my life with. It's kind of weird. It's kind of, I don't know. I guess if you're like me and you're independent and strong, you kind of know where I'm coming from, because that's kind of a conundrum. So it's kind of like, okay, what do we do? Another thing is to have a furry angel to have fun with. And like I said, Willow and I are playing tug of war while I'm doing my podcast. She's literally trying to jerk the ball out of my hand right now. I'm shocked you haven't heard me bouncing all over the place. But we've had several of them. We've gotten some from reputable breeders. We have rescued some furry angels and gave them better homes, or found other homes once we got them settled in and taken care of. But to me, that's one thing out of my life, and I'm always looking for, if we can help another one out, we try to help them out. Another thing that I know I want in life is not allow anyone in my life that's toxic or simply takes me for granted. I learned, it took a long time to learn this one, to learn my self-worth is really what it comes down to, because I always thought that I was being arrogant by saying, well, this is what I'm worth. I always thought I was just full of myself. And it's taken me a lot of years to understand that's not the same thing, because I now understand. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else. I'm not saying anything like that. Please don't take it that way. But what I'm saying is not allowing anybody toxic in my life has freed me up to do other things, because I'm not worried about what are they thinking of me. Are they backstabbing me? Are they saying things I don't want? It allows me to expand my horizons. And like I said, I write and I do my podcast. I go for drives in the hills. There's all kinds of different things. I know that's what I want out of life. So by keeping the toxic people out of my life frees me up to do these things. Another thing that I'm always hoping for is to have enough money to pay my bills and have a little bit of a life. I am not looking to be rich. I am not looking to be famous, anything like that. That is not who I am. And all I want to be able to do is be able to put food on the table, pay my bills, and take care of my family. That's all I'm hoping for. And that's, that may be shooting low. I don't know. I'm a very simple man. I don't need all the fancy things. I don't need a huge 5-bedroom house or however you quantify, having a lot of money. To me, a little log cabin in the hills with a garage I can put my truck in and a nice area for my puppy to run around, I'm done. I'm happy to be able to pay my bills and put food on the table. I'm happy. That's perfect. That's what I want out of life. Next thing there is to help everybody that I can and support them. And that is the driving force behind my podcast. And that's why I'm not sure if I'm doing a great job at these or if I'm doing any kind of good help or not. I do hear from time to time. Last week I got a couple nice emails from some listeners saying how they enjoy the podcast and how it helps them get through the day. To me, that makes all the time that I spend doing these worth it. And I love hearing from you guys. That makes me feel so good that you would take a couple 3 minutes and write me an email. That means the world to me. That means that you're thinking of me, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you so very much for doing it. But I just want to help everybody that I can, and that's what I keep doing the podcast for. The next thing that I'm hoping what I get out of my life, like we talked earlier, I hope to see my books go mainstream so I can spread a little happiness to all that read them. And everybody that's read them so far has really, really liked them. Not everybody's going to. I understand that. You can't be 100% on it. It's just kind of like, I know not 100% of the people like my podcast. That's just the way it is. You can't please everybody. It's not possible. But I hope someday to be able to get an agent and see my books go mainstream. Now, whether they'll do any good or not, I don't know. But for the people that have read them, they enjoy the heck out of them. They say they're very, very well written. And everything else. So to me, that makes me feel good. So that's knowing that hopefully someday I can go big time and sell a couple books. That's all I'm hoping for. The last thing that I come up with when I was writing up my notes for what I want out of life is to live humble and be proud of my accomplishments. And humble, I work very hard every day to just know that, okay, this is what I can afford. This is how I live, and it's very simple. I live a very simple life. I'm not fancy. And in fact, my family lets me know it all the time, because it's like when we do actually go out to eat, I order the same thing. And it's like, why not get something else? Because I said that's what works for me, and I'm happy with it. I'm good. If you guys want to try something else, you're my family. Go right on ahead. I love you guys. You go ahead and just do you, and I'll do me. And you don't know how hard it was for me to say be proud of my accomplishments, because to me, that makes me sound very arrogant. And I know it's not. And I'm proud of the books that I have written. I'm proud of my podcast. I'm proud of my son and my family. I'm proud of all of that. I don't have really much else to show for anything. Everything else I own is old and broken down. But I don't let that deter me, because I know that I'm going to try to help people. I'm going to try to light the way a little bit through my podcast, and hopefully maybe make a difference and put a smile on somebody's face, or maybe have them think of something in a little bit different way. That's all I can hope to do for. That's what I'm hoping that these podcasts do. Now, whether they do it or not, I don't know. But from what little I've heard, from you guys writing in and telling me, you guys like them, and you're listening. So to me, that means all the world, and thank you so much. So I just try to live humble and be proud of my accomplishments. That's all I can do. But as your life changes over the years, remember, you have to adjust what you want out of life a little bit. But there's some core things, like what I just told you, some core items that really don't change. I've added on to them a little bit and modified them a little bit. But for the most part, they've pretty much stayed the same. I try not to change them too much. Of course, as you go through life, things are always going to be different. You're going to have new goals and new desires. But keeping your core ones, kind of like your core beliefs, is something that you hang on to. Even if society says that's not right, you're going against society's norms, and you're thinking outside the box, don't let anybody tell you that that's wrong, because if I didn't think outside the box, I honestly would have never started writing. If I didn't think outside the box, I would never do the podcast. I'll be honest, I never once listened to a podcast before I started mine. When Alex come up to me and he told me, everybody keeps asking you about your weight loss, Dad. Why don't you do a podcast? I go, huh? I don't know really what that is. If you really want to know the truth, I've heard of them, but I never really listened to them. And to this day, I have yet to listen to anybody else's podcast, because I don't want their podcast to influence mine. These are just solely mine. Whether they're going to be any good or not, I don't know. That's up to you guys. If you continue to listen to them, I'll assume they're good. And I take that as a very, very big thank you. It means the world to me. But that's something that brings me happiness, is sharing what little knowledge I have and sharing with you. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not anybody important. I'm not a physical trainer. Nothing. As I'm going through this, I don't have a piece of paper on the wall that says, hey, you're smart and important. I don't have anything like that. But everything I learned is school of hard knocks. So I figure, hey, if I can try to make one thing easier for you, then it makes the podcast worth it. And that's what I do. And that's what I want out of life, is to help people. And that's why I wrote down there to help everyone that I can and support them as one of my goals and desires to get through there. So even know that you go against societal norms on some of your beliefs and some of your goals, don't think that's a bad thing. And to me, I was talking to my friend and stuff there. I mean, he was talking to me about some of the things that he was hoping for and he's trying to figure out. He's a brilliant, strong man. I'm so lucky that he's in my life, and we haven't been friends all that long. And I'm so grateful that he come along, because he's made me rethink of things, and he's actually made me a better man, just like my son makes me a better man every day. I'm so lucky to have those guys in my life. I have my truck driving friend that is incredible. He's inspired me for so many years. It's fantastic. So to me, if you have to go against the social norm and think outside the box, one of the things that I know I want out of life is someone that, if you can find somebody that makes you happy and makes you laugh, makes you happy and makes you laugh. If they support you, no matter what, through thick and thin, no matter what you go through, your bad decisions, your ups, your downs, whatever it is, if they support you and they're always there for you and wants nothing but the best for you, they do nothing but make you a better person. They push you in ways that you never thought you would ever do. And if they genuinely care and or love you, no matter the gender, then make them a part of your life. People like that are in very, very short supply. And I am so grateful for the family and friends that I have in my life, because I don't allow many people by me, just mainly because I'm very closed off. I'm an introvert. I keep to myself. And I've just learned over the years that I would rather have the quality people in my life than quantity. And all of you are my extended family. That's why I want to help every single one of you. I'm hoping something in these podcasts will help. But if you can find somebody that makes you happy and makes you laugh, if they support you, if they're always there for you and wants nothing but the best for you, and genuinely cares and or loves you, no matter what the gender is, it can be the same gender. I mean, if you've got, I'm a guy, so if I have a guy friend that, cares about me and supports me and everything else, or if you're a lady and you have a lady friend that does that, make them a part of your life. Remember, those people are in short supply. You want to hang on to those people. You want to incorporate them into your life. You want to be there for them. And that's what I try to do every day for my family and friends, is I try to be there. When I'm writing out my podcasts, I think of you guys thinking, how can I help you guys out today? How can I be there for you? I mean, I realize it's just, you're hearing my voice through this microphone, and that's it. But know that every time that I'm talking about these and I write up my episodes, I'm thinking of you guys 100%, because I want you to know I'm here for you. I support you, and I'll do whatever I can to try to support everybody out there. And it's, the men, this whole series is dedicated to men, showing, guys, there is somebody that is supporting you, that is behind you 100% and is here for you. That's what I'm trying to do with these podcasts, is letting you know you're not out there alone. You're not going through life by yourself. That's what I'm trying to say with these podcasts, is there's somebody here. I'm behind you. I'm a biggest cheerleader for you. I'm here to help you. And I'm hoping something in these podcasts will help you see things in a different way. So if you could find all those things in somebody, then make them a part of your life. Even though social norms dictate how we act, how we work, and how we live, and we're all supposed to be the same way, to me, that is very boring and outdated, and I've moved past it. I have to say that after my divorce, I have really allowed my mind to expand and to basically see things differently and incorporate new ways of looking at things and how to go about life. So if I can find somebody like that, which those are the people closest to me, then I make them a part of my life. I let them know every day that I appreciate them. I would be lost without them. They help keep my direction straight north, straight and clear. That I know exactly where I'm going. They keep me on track, and I hope that I get to help them. So as you've listened to all of this, you're probably going, Sean, I don't really know how to figure out what I want out of life. So I try to figure out a couple things, to try to help you in the way of kind of getting your mind to go in the right direction. And I started writing down a bunch of ideas, and I got to thinking, okay, there's got to be somebody smarter than me that wrote this a little bit more eloquently than what I am. So I went to work and I did some searching, and I ended up on soulsalt.com. And thanks to Lynn Christian for this incredible article. I read it and I felt so inspired when I read it, and as I was going through, she did a wonderful job putting these together. So I thought, okay, this is a good thing, and I want to bring these up to you guys, so it'll hopefully open your mind up a little bit. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of them, but I'm going to give it my best here, and I'm hoping that you'll see things a little bit differently as we go through these. So the first thing that she came up with is, what would the child in you think about your current you? And that was a wonderful question, because it was like, holy cow, you right out of the shotgun, she's making me think. And remember, as she puts it, every child is born like a blank slate. And they're right. And that's when we start developing our likes, our dislikes, our, what we want to do, what our thoughts are. Everybody starts out saying, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a fireman, or an astronaut, or, a rock star, or anything like that. That's the child side of you exploring new options. And then you come up to see, okay, well, your current you. What am I now? I am not anything like what I had hoped for back when I was young. So then it made me think of, what would it take to get back to that point? I mean, I was like, okay, how am I going to figure this out? So if you wanted to try to figure out what you were thinking of, and she put this perfectly. She said, close your eyes, try to think back to yourself as a child. What would the child think about the current you? Ask yourself, what kind of activities did you enjoy? How did you look at the world? Can you think of any difficult situations that may have impacted who you are today? And that one there is, as I've basically talked about the whole episode, what has happened to me. What does the adult you want the child you to experience more of? And do you hide parts of your inner child to fit in now? Those are wonderful questions. I got to say, as soon as I read that, I spent hours thinking of these. Those are wonderful questions. I mean, she just knocked it out of the ballpark in there. So I actually went back, and I knew, that's why I said I wanted to be a teacher, and that's where that come from. And I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to be a counselor, all of those things. And I started to go that direction, and then I didn't anymore. So that made me think of, okay, what am I going to do to change that? And that's where I started talking about the things, the core beliefs that I wanted, and finding someone and helping people, and it all goes back to that. Another thing there that she came up with is, what are the things you want to change or eliminate from your life? Where do you stand in your life right now? You may actually have a lot of things going right, or maybe you recognize those things glaring at you in the face that need to change. Be honest with yourself and write down a list of all the things that bring you joy and satisfaction. And then make a separate list for areas that you need to change. And that's what I did. She nailed that one there. And I did that after my divorce. I tried to figure out what was I going to do with my life and where I wanted to go. And this works. I got to be honest, because this helped give me direction that I couldn't see before. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It took me a while to compile this list, because it's like, okay, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I like. I don't know, anything, because honestly, I'd been married for so long, and with my ex-wife, I actually lost who I was, because when you're in a relationship, you pick up a lot of the inflections and, the ways of doing things is what your partner is. So I actually lost myself doing all this. But some of the things is that she came up with, life habits. Do you get enough sleep, eat nutritious foods, and stay active? Relationships. Compare people who lift you up versus toxic relationships. Work or career path. Do you yearn to change jobs or shift your career path entirely? Routine. Do you spend time doing the things that you love? Do you take on too much? And those are all questions I asked myself when I first got out of my divorce. And these work. Honestly, be honest with yourself. Don't just write things down. If you don't have honest answers, don't write them down, and give yourself time. It took me, honestly, I think it took me almost 6 months to answer these questions, which you would think, well, these are simple questions. But when you sit down and you have to write down the things the pros and cons of all those questions, it's harder than you think. But let me tell you, when you get that list and you're genuinely honest with yourself, it works. And I've had other people ask me, what did I do to get there? And I told them about this. This is what helped them as well. So it's batting 100% on the pros and cons of your life. It's fantastic. It's great advice. Who and what are the people you like and admire? Having role models can inspire your direction to build a meaningful life. And that is very, very true. I went back and I thought of that, especially when I was writing my books, because I wanted to incorporate those people into my books. So I went back and I tried to figure out who my role models are. And I've talked about it on another website that was on and stuff there for podcasters, and it said, who is your biggest role model? And I know you can laugh at me all you want out there, but to be honest, my biggest role model is Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation. And the reason is because honor is everything to him. Family integrity is everything to him. You do the right things constantly, and yes, you go through a lot of rough times to get to that point, and walking the right road is a very lonely road, but you can live with yourself a lot easier. And I learned that from him by watching that TV show when I was growing up. I mean, I was 12, 13 when it first came out, 13 I believe, and it was very, very influential on me. I learned a lot of, and you get a lot of my core beliefs actually fall from that show, and actually the way he is and the way he raised his son was a model for me to raise my own son, because he was more, he was very traditional, but yet towards the end he started to open his mind up and working with his son. So to me, that's something that really helped me figure out who I was. The next thing she come up with is what inspires you. Living a good life means more than just having your essential needs met. Deep down, we all want to feel inspired, and that's where I come from when I said about my books. I'm hoping that someday I'll be able to, put a smile on somebody's face, which I know I already have, because I've got some folks that follow me in my books, and they already said they love them. And the same way with my podcast. That's what I'm trying to do, is I'm just trying to help people. I'm just trying to be that little glimmer of hope out in a very, very tough world that you can sit here and listen to for a few minutes, and hopefully it helps you. Some of the questions that she had is, if you could have your dream job, what would you do? What adventures or activities intrigue you? If you had all the time and money at your disposal, what would you do? And those are fantastic questions. And to me, like I said, if I had all the time and money, I'd restart my business and work with all those incredible artisans that I got to work with, and all the authors. I would do whatever I can to support them again and be there for them. Adventures and activities, something as simple as just going up in the hills for me is all the world, sitting there stargazing. When there's nothing but trees around and it's dark and it's just clear as a bell and you can see all the stars. I love them. That's one of my favorite times, and I do it quite often. Another thing that she came up with is, how can you serve others? That was fantastic. Volunteering, giving to a charity. I do that quite a bit, or as much as I can. I should do more, and I admit, and I don't do enough, but I really, really should. And I try to help others as much as I can. That's where I'm trying to do what I can through my podcasts. I'm hoping, like I said, that they help. Another thing that she came up with is, what have you always thought you'd do with your life? So the question she came up there, you may have an idea deep down inside of your calling. Did you have a passion you always fell to the wayside because of other responsibilities? And like I said, that's why I started talking about being a teacher, a counselor, and everything else, because that was the only thing that's all everybody knew while I was growing up. That's all I wanted to do, was be a teacher. And that's what I thought I would do with my life. I honestly thought that from age 18 to 22, I'd go to college. From 22 on until I retired, all I wanted to be was a teacher. That's all I wanted. I couldn't see anything else. I never explored any other option, nothing. So go back to, sit down and think about, what did you want to do with your life? That will help you know what you want out of life, because that might give you the direction necessary to figure, okay, well, maybe I need to go and try this out. Another thing is, what do you want to do before you die? And that's a fantastic question, because I answered that one too when I first got divorced, and I still am always answering that question. What have you always wanted to do? And one of my biggest goals is something as simple as see the New England states. I was so lucky. I got to spend 8 days over New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts. I mean, it was a dream come true. And that's what I always wanted to do. I didn't get to go during the fall season to be a leafer, but someday I'm going to get back over there. They're amazing people over there. They're very kind. They're very welcoming. We were just welcomed, no matter where we went. Everybody would stop and talk to you. They were fantastic. They were an amazing group of people. And the other thing is, I'm noticing I'm a little low on time here, so I'm trying to speed up a little bit. And the final thing that she come up with is, what scares you? I don't know what to do with my life can sometimes mean I've been afraid to go after what I really want. And that is very, very true. And let me tell you this, I was terrified about starting my own business, because it's kind of like, this is a do or die thing. I'm putting all my savings on the line. I'm putting my house on the line, my vehicle on the line, everything. And, I was putting, even my reputation was on the line, because basically I've been able to, anything I put my mind to, I've been able to do. And we were going good until COVID hit. And I'm not using it as an excuse, but it is true. COVID killed everything. I got to work with an amazing group of artisans, and I really, really miss it. But it scared the heck out of me starting my own business, because it's like, what do I do now? Where do I go here? What happens if, this falls through? What happens if nobody comes in? What happens if the advertising doesn't work? There were so many what ifs, and I put so much extra time in, and I was so grateful because I had help from my friends and family. They were down helping me as much as they possibly can. I had one friend that was down every Saturday. She helped out pricing and logging stuff in and computer stuff. And my son came in and he helped build counters and shelving units and anything there that he could help out with. They were phenomenal. So I had an amazing amount of support for doing it. So knowing what you want out of life is not easy. But she came up with, let's see if I can burn through these real fast here. Figure out what to do next with your life. When you yearn to find direction and purpose, you may feel overwhelmed with options and confused about which path to take. So some of the things that she's come up with is examine your purpose in life. Each of us has a purpose, unique gifts that only you can bring to the table and no one else. But many of us move through life without thinking about their purpose. That's a very, very good point, and that helped me out. Another one is evaluate your life values. Remember, I talked about your core beliefs. That's where it comes from. She wrote down your connection, family, career, status, freedom, creativity, beauty, service. There's all kinds of whatever you value. That will help move you to what you want out of life. Analyze your strengths. Fantastic. When you know your strengths, you will attract opportunities where you can really shine. Basically, I define strengths as those aspects of yourself that help you reach your fullest potential. Absolutely beautifully worded. Once you know what your strengths are, then use them to your advantage. And that's what I did by starting my own business and writing my books. And it's like, I didn't know I had the strengths, but once I started going that way, they turned into an incredible strength. And I moved forward. And yeah, it's a little scary doing things, but hey, I got through it, and I would do it again, to be very honest. Another one is assess your opportunities. Finding your why might mean a big change, like starting a new career path. But before you quit a job, do some research. Be very careful about jumping, and that's why I looked at moving out to the New England states. That's why we were out checking out things, because I just thought, okay, I figured it would be a great place to retire, so that's what I was looking at. And I was looking at the opportunities that I had, and we're still working on them. Explore your hobbies and passions. Best way to do that one there is, some people do turn their hobbies and passions into work, no doubt about it. But exploring them can sometimes lead you to what you want out of life. You may find out that you want to do more fishing or more hunting, golfing, bubble baths. You'd be surprised on whatever it is, knitting, cross stitching, whatever it is. That's what you want to incorporate into your life, because that'll help relieve stress and make things a little bit better. This one here I thought was fantastic. Take field trips and observe other people. I think that is a great idea. Sometimes finding inspiration means stepping outside of your bubble. Go explore. Whether it means getting more involved in your community, adding new events, or taking a trip to a new city. Absolutely, it was fantastic, because I got to tell you, when we went to the New England states, man, that opened my eyes like I'd never seen. That is absolutely great advice. I recommend that you try that. And just people watch, you'd be surprised in what you learn, and you may think, hey, I want to try that, or I want to do that. And then see, there you go. Your life goes in a different direction again. Read, learn, and get inspired. Today we have so much information at our disposal. Podcasts, books, TED Talks. These resources out there can open your mind to many opportunities just waiting for you to discover. Absolutely wonderful. I think that's a fantastic way of writing it. And the last thing that she had was experiment. Discovering the purpose of life is not easy. Each person has their own unique path. You probably have many gifts to offer the world, and that will bring you joy. Plus, your purpose can change the different phases of life. Like I said, everything's always changing. So no matter what you do, you're always going to be reevaluating. And that's fantastic. That's great. That means you're growing as a person. You're getting better. And I can't stress that enough, because honestly, even though I lost the business and lost my home, I gained a lot of knowledge, and I'm ready to go. So when I get a chance to do it again, I'll do it even better. And I know that it'll be even better. It'll be bigger and better, and it'll be just that much more awesome. So I'm realizing I'm way over on time, so I'm going to end the podcast there. So hopefully something in here for knowing what you want in life. I'm hoping there's something you can take away from this podcast. But basically, finding yourself and finding your passions is important. Just get started. Try it. Try something new. Try something, something that you never thought you would ever do. it's fantastic. Trust me, it goes, and that's how I gained the courage to do what I've done so far. And yes, I didn't get to keep doing it, but it allowed me to give me the strength to give it a try, and because that's what I knew I wanted to do. So hopefully you take something away from it. Remember to like, subscribe, share, comment on the pages. I love hearing from you guys. So I'm going to end the podcast right here because I'm way over in time with the dad joke of the day. You're not going to get away with them. I always end it with a dad joke of the day. Here we go. Did you hear that I was recently hit in the head with a soda can? Thankfully, it was a soft drink. I couldn't write that one down fast enough to tell you guys. I just absolutely love that one. Thanks so much for listening. You guys are amazing. Remember, I'm always behind you. You've always got a big cheerleader behind you. I'm always going to be in your corner, helping you out wherever I can. And as always, all my love and support